In the dusty plains of the American West, under a scorching sun that baked the earth like a forgotten loaf, rode a lone figure on a weary horse. He was known only as the Drifter, a man with eyes like shadowed canyons and a past etched in blood. Years ago, in a small mining town called Silver Gulch, his family had been slaughtered by a ruthless gang led by Black Jack Harlan. The Drifter had barely escaped with his life, vowing revenge on the men who took everything from him. Now, after wandering the frontier for a decade, honing his skills with a six-shooter and a knife, he heard whispers that Harlan's gang was holed up in the lawless outpost of Devil's Bend. With a heart hardened by grief and a Colt revolver at his hip, he spurred his horse forward, the wind carrying the scent of sagebrush and impending doom. The journey was long, crossing arid deserts where mirages danced like ghosts, but his resolve never wavered. As he approached the town, saloons spilled laughter and gunshots into the night, a symphony of chaos that called to his vengeful soul. Devil's Bend was a ramshackle collection of wooden buildings leaning against each other like drunkards after a brawl. The Drifter tied his horse to a post outside the Rusty Spur Saloon, his boots kicking up dust as he stepped onto the creaky porch. Inside, the air was thick with tobacco smoke and the tang of cheap whiskey. Men with scarred faces and yellowed teeth eyed him suspiciously, their hands inching toward holsters. At the bar, a weathered bartender poured drinks with trembling hands, whispering tales of Harlan's iron grip on the town. The gang controlled the gold mines, extorting miners and killing anyone who resisted. The Drifter ordered a shot of rye, his voice low and gravelly, asking about Harlan. The bartender's eyes widened in fear, but he nodded toward a table in the corner where Harlan's right-hand man, Scarface McGraw, played poker with a stacked deck. The Drifter watched, memorizing faces, planning his moves like a chess master in a den of wolves. As the night deepened, the saloon buzzed with rowdy patrons, piano music clashing with shouts of victory and defeat. The Drifter approached the poker table, his presence casting a shadow over the game. Scarface looked up, his one good eye narrowing, the other hidden behind a patch from a long-ago knife fight. "Stranger, you lookin' for trouble?" he snarled, his fingers drumming on his revolver. The Drifter smiled faintly, pulling up a chair without invitation. He anted up with a gold coin that glinted under the lantern light, drawing greedy stares. The cards were dealt, and as the game progressed, the Drifter's luck, or skill, turned the tide. Accusations flew, chairs scraped back, and suddenly guns were drawn. In a blur, the Drifter fired first, dropping two of Harlan's men before diving behind the bar. Bullets splintered wood, glass shattered like brittle bones, but he emerged unscathed, vanishing into the night with Scarface's curses echoing behind him. Dawn broke over Devil's Bend, painting the sky in hues of orange and red, like blood spilled on canvas. The Drifter hid in an abandoned shack on the outskirts, tending to a minor graze on his arm from the saloon shootout. He reloaded his revolver, each bullet a promise of retribution. Word spread quickly through the town about the stranger who challenged Harlan's gang. Miners whispered hopes of liberation, while informants raced to Harlan's fortified ranch. Black Jack himself, a towering man with a black beard and eyes like coals, roared in fury upon hearing the news. He gathered his remaining outlaws, 10 hardened killers, for a manhunt. Meanwhile, the Drifter befriended a young widow named Eliza, whose husband had been murdered by the gang. She provided him with food and information about Harlan's weaknesses, her eyes filled with a mix of fear and admiration for this enigmatic avenger. The manhunt began at high noon, with Harlan's men scouring the canyons and arroyos surrounding the town. Hoofs thundered across the parched ground, dust clouds rising like smoke signals. The Drifter, anticipating their moves, set traps along likely paths, hidden pits with sharpened stakes, tripwires connected to dynamite stolen from the mines. One by one, gang members fell victim. A horse bucked its rider into a ravine, another exploded in a blast of rock and fire. Harlan grew enraged, offering a bounty on the Drifter's head that tempted even the town's sheriff, a corrupt puppet under his thumb. But the Drifter struck back under cover of darkness, ambushing patrols and leaving bodies as warnings. His legend grew, inspiring the oppressed townsfolk to secretly aid him with supplies and intelligence. Eliza's cabin became a makeshift headquarters, hidden in a grove of cottonwoods by a trickling stream. There, the Drifter shared fragments of his past, how Harlan's gang had raided his homestead, killing his wife and child in a senseless grab for land. Tears welled in Eliza's eyes as she bandaged his wounds, her touch gentle amid the hardness of his world. She revealed that Harlan kept a ledger of his crimes in a safe at the ranch, evidence that could turn the tide if exposed. Together, they plotted an infiltration, using the cover of a coming storm to mask their approach. Thunder rumbled in the distance, lightning flashing like gunfire, as the drifter prepared his gear, rifles, knives, and a heart steeled for the confrontation ahead. The storm hit with fury, rain lashing the earth and turning dirt roads to mud. Under this veil, the drifter and Eliza crept toward Harlan's ranch, a sprawling compound guarded by watchtowers and barbed wire. They scaled a back fence, avoiding patrols soaked and miserable in the downpour. Inside the main house, Harlan paced before a roaring fire, his paranoia mounting as reports of lost men trickled in. The drifter burst through a window, glass shattering like his shattered life, and held a guard at gunpoint. Eliza searched for the safe, her hands steady despite the danger. Gunfire erupted as alarms were raised, but the drifter's precision shots dropped assailants before they could close in. With the ledger in hand, filled with names of victims and stolen deeds, the drifter confronted Harlan in his study. The outlaw leader drew his pistol, but the drifter was faster, wounding him in the shoulder. "You took my family," the drifter growled, his voice echoing over the storm's howl. Harlan laughed maniacally, revealing he remembered the raid as just another job. A fierce duel ensued, furniture overturning, bullets ricocheting off walls. Eliza provided cover fire from the doorway, her bravery shining through. Finally, the drifter disarmed Harlan, forcing a confession that absolved the innocent and damned the guilty. As the storm subsided, dawn's light revealed the ranch in ruins, bodies strewn like fallen leaves. The drifter, ledger in tow, rode back to town with Eliza at his side. Townsfolk gathered in the square, murmuring in awe as he presented the evidence to the honest deputy, who had long awaited a chance to act. Arrests followed swiftly, Harlan's remaining gang rounded up and shackled. The drifter watched from afar, his revenge nearly complete, but a loose end remained: Scarface McGraw, who had escaped the initial chaos and now plotted his own ambush. Scarface rallied a few loyalists in a hidden cave, their faces twisted with rage. They set an ambush on the trail leading out of town, knowing the drifter would soon depart. But the drifter, ever vigilant, sensed the trap. He doubled back through rugged terrain, flanking their position. A shootout in the rocky outcrops ensued, echoes amplifying each blast. Scarface fell last, his final words a curse upon the drifter's name. With the gang eradicated, peace tentatively returned to Devil's Bend, miners reclaiming their rights and the town electing a new sheriff. Eliza implored the drifter to stay, her eyes pleading for a future together amid the healing land. He hesitated, the weight of his wandering life pulling at him like an old habit. They shared a quiet evening by the stream, stars twinkling above as he recounted tales of lost loves and endless roads. But dawn brought resolve. Revenge had been sated, yet the frontier called. He mounted his horse, tipping his hat in farewell, promising to return if fate allowed. Eliza watched him ride away, a silhouette against the rising sun, her heart heavy but hopeful. Months passed, and the drifter traversed new territories, from snowy mountains to verdant valleys. Whispers of his deeds followed, turning him into a folk hero among settlers. In a bustling cattle town, he encountered remnants of similar gangs, dispensing justice with swift draws. But memories of Eliza softened his edges, drawing him back toward Devil's Bend. A letter from her, carried by a stagecoach, spoke of rebuilding and a child on the way, his child, conceived in their brief union. Shocked and elated, the drifter spurred his horse homeward, racing against time and bandits on the trail. He thwarted a robbery en route, saving passengers and earning their gratitude. Arriving in Devil's Bend, the town transformed: clean streets, thriving businesses, and Eliza waiting with a swelling belly. They embraced under the same cottonwoods, vows exchanged in a simple ceremony witnessed by grateful townsfolk. Fatherhood brought new purpose, the drifter trading his revolver for a plow, though he kept it oiled just in case. The child, a boy named after his lost kin, grew strong in the western sun. Years blurred into contentment, but old enemies sometimes stirred, distant relatives of Harlan seeking vengeance. The drifter met them head-on, protecting his family with the skills that once defined him. As the boy turned 10, the drifter taught him to ride and shoot, imparting lessons of honor amid the wilds. Together, they explored canyons where echoes of past battles lingered. Eliza watched proudly, her love an anchor in their lives. The town prospered, becoming a beacon for weary travelers, all thanks to the man who drifted in on vengeance and stayed for love. Yet, peace was fragile. A new threat emerged. A railroad baron eyeing the town's land for expansion, backed by hired guns. The drifter rallied the community, forming a militia from miners and farmers. Strategy sessions in the saloon echoed his old planning, but now with hope instead of hate. They fortified positions, awaiting the inevitable clash. The baron's men arrived at dusk, torches blazing like infernal stars. Gunfire lit the night, bullets whizzing through windows and walls. The drifter led the defense, his shots true and commanding. His son, hidden safely, watched in awe as his father became the hero of legends. Eliza tended the wounded, her resolve unbreakable. In the melee's heart, the drifter faced the baron's enforcer, a giant with a Gatling gun. Dodging bursts of lead, he closed in with knife work honed in desperation. A final thrust ended the threat, the baron fleeing in disgrace. Victory cheers rang out, the town saved once more by its guardian drifter. With the railroad diverted, prosperity bloomed. The drifter built a homestead, fields yielding crops under his care. Family dinners under lantern light filled with stories, laughter mending old scars. His past, once a shadow, now a tale told to wide-eyed children. Around campfires, seasons cycled, the boy growing into a young man, mirroring his father's quiet strength. The drifter aged gracefully, gray streaking his hair like silver veins in rock. Eliza's love remained constant, their bond a testament to redemption. Occasional drifters passed through, sharing news of the world beyond. One fateful day, a stranger arrived bearing a wanted poster, for the drifter, framed by vengeful survivors of past feuds. The town stood by him, but he chose to face it alone, riding out to clear his name. In a distant courthouse, evidence from the ledger proved his innocence, turning accusers into the accused. Returning triumphant, the drifter was hailed as a legend. Festivals honored him, songs composed in his name. His family embraced him, the boy now a deputy upholding the law. Peace settled deeply, the West taming under civilized hands. Yet, adventure called the boy away, seeking his own path like his father once did. The drifter bid him farewell with pride, knowing the cycle continued. Eliza and he grew old together, watching sunsets paint the plains in gold. In twilight years, the drifter reflected on his journey, from loss to vengeance, to love and legacy. Grandchildren played at his feet, their laughter a balm. The revolver hung unused, a relic of bygone days. A final challenge arose. Drought ravaged the land, threatening all. The drifter led efforts to dig wells, his wisdom guiding the community through hardship. Rains eventually came, renewing the earth as hope renewed his spirit. As stars wheeled overhead, the drifter and Eliza shared quiet moments, hands intertwined. Their story, whispered on winds, inspired generations. Revenge had sparked his path, but love had completed it. The boy returned, now a marshal, bringing tales of justice served. Family reunions filled the homestead with joy, bonds unbreakable. The drifter smiled, content in his role as patriarch. Illness touched Eliza, but the drifter's care nursed her back, their devotion unwavering. The town supported them, repaying debts of gratitude. Life's ebb and flow continued gracefully. In his last days, the drifter gazed at the horizon, peace in his eyes. Surrounded by loved ones, he passed quietly, his legend enduring. Buried under cottonwoods, his grave a pilgrimage site. Years later, the West evolved, but the drifter's revenge lived on in folklore, a tale of redemption amid gunsmoke and glory. His descendants carried the flame, ensuring justice prevailed in the endless frontier.